I want to ask you a question about the fact that within any challenges we're facing right now is an opportunity. We have an opportunity right now that's being seen as a global opportunity worth about $40 trillion in pivoting or moving the economy into a more environmentally sustainable model. So not only is it better for the planet, it's very good for business because that opportunity is there. What will your party and you, if elected, do to accelerate and facilitate an increase in the green economy? And I might as well start with Annemieke because I said green.
Okay. So the Greens have a strong environmental platform. We commit to making BC carbon neutral by 2045 with interim targets in between. We're clearly in favor of ending oil and gas subsidies and banning fracking. There's also the costs that are associated with Site C that we have questioned. And this money we would suggest should be redirected to a green jobs plan to help us not only recover from COVID, but to get to that green economy. I mentioned that there's $1 billion strategic investment fund in our platform that would start the innovation towards a green economy. We need to look at our greenhouse gas emissions as a lens when we're looking at government procurement. And we also need to focus on the just transition for people working in the oil and gas sector, whether that's workers, impacted, and work with educational institutions and others to develop training programs for a wide variety of green jobs. Those types of initiatives and also the development of our natural assets are part of what is really necessary for pivoting to that green economy.
Thank you. David Somerville.
Right. We all know that the world is moving away from oil within our lifetime. BC is well placed for this challenge of our strong, clean, and green hydro resources that provide our electricity. Our next challenge is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation and buildings. That means we will need to invest in making electric transportation more widely available and upgrading our building codes. We are good at this, and right here in BC, we have world-leading technology for innovations such as carbon capture. So let us kickstart the change by planning for solar and wind power, preparing for increased reliance on electricity instead of oil, and making BC a leader once again in climate policy. And we can start this by reestablishing BC as a global climate leader and making BC a place where people have clean and green choices in transportation, buildings, and public services, and creating jobs and reducing energy costs for British Columbians by encouraging the retrofitting of homes and businesses.
Okay, thanks, David. And Rob Fleming.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. I think it's worth saying that one of the things that is critically important for BC to be a leader environmentally on tackling climate change is accountability, and to have targets in legislation helps us work with industry to meet those targets, to massively reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We wait for a stronger world order of willing participants in the wake of the disastrous presidency down south to bring nations together to work in common cause on climate change. But BC has no time to waste in terms of making the innovations that will get us there first to the prosperity that will come with transitioning to a green economy. We know that in terms of our own profile on greenhouse gas emissions, 40% of it comes from transportation. So electrification of not just private vehicle fleets, but commercial vehicles, as well as our own transportation sector is critically important. And we have a lot of R&D and research that flows from things like fuel cells and other technologies that will be a part of that. Green buildings, as the other candidates have mentioned, also incredibly important. I think 15 to 20% of BC's emissions come from buildings. So to see projects, again, I go to the UVic housing project, net zero energy, passive house construction, that is what the future looks like. That is what all buildings will have to, a standard they'll all have to meet by 2032. And it leads to new companies, new growth. You've already seen construction companies and manufacturers produce a mass timber industry, which has lower carbon emissions than cement and traditional timber products. You're going to see tilt panel construction components from recyclable materials, all those kinds of things that create new companies, new jobs, and the ability to export technology to other parts of the world. So that's pretty exciting. And I think that's the as you said, Bruce, the crisis that we can't waste to provide the opportunities that we need for more good jobs and more good companies.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Now,